Welcome to the live post-game edition of The Independent. I'm Pete Sampson, joined by Matt Forutuna. I am somewhere in a booth that I'm not sure I should be in MetLife Stadium after Notre Dame's 51-14 blowout of Navy. That, look, it was clearly aided by Navy's 7 fumbles, 5 lost. That being said, I think that if Navy had played a relatively clean game, Notre Dame still would have covered the spread. I look at Notre Dame and I feel like I'm watching a team get better.
Navy moved the ball well when they didn't turn it over, Pete. I mean, other than those 8 times, or excuse me, however many times. They
5 times, yeah.
Six. They had a pick in the end zone, too.
Oh, right, yeah.
Boy, was that, this was billed as a matchup amongst a certain segment of this listenership as the number 2 dog and him quarterback against the number 8 dog and him quarterback. Now, we know all about Blake Horvath's dog and him because he played with a bad thumb, as they mentioned on the broadcast, every single time he took a snap. But boy, did Navy struggle today. I mean, credit to Notre Dame. I think that defense had a lot to do with it. And when they're playing as well as they have, both coming into this game and throughout the course of this game, you can't tell me that is not contributing to some of this mentally for Navy, as far as just the jitters or getting rid of the ball too quickly, or the one fumble that Snead fell on in the end zone, he wasn't even touched.
Right.
I've seen that one other time in my life. It was Tommy Reese at Michigan in 2011 when they were in the red zone, where the ball literally just drops right out of his hands. I mean, everything that could have gone wrong for Navy today went wrong. I'd say everything that could have gone right for Notre Dame today went right. I mean, they set a phenomenal tone from the get-go with that touchdown drive to open the game. And, once it was 14-0, I think, we've seen this game before. Navy punched back really quickly, but that was about it. I thought coming in, this had a chance to get out of hand pretty quickly in Notre Dame's favor. I did not see it unfolding the way it did, but I've rarely seen a game where there's a literal difference of 6 turnovers between both teams.
No, it's incredible. I would say Notre Dame, this felt like a Navy game in the sense of like, ooh, Notre Dame is under some kind of pressure for exactly 1 minute and 5 seconds between Blake Horvath's 47-yard touchdown run and Jeremiah Love's 64-yard touchdown run. And that was it. That was the end of the game in terms of there being any sort of uncertainty about who was ultimately going to win it. But I just thought, I think we said this in the midweek podcast, like, when Notre Dame is good, they win this game on offense. We spend a whole ton of time talking about the adjustments and the option and pitches and slot backs and throwbacks. And Navy had some stuff that was good. They could have hit that throwback to Horvath that just got dropped.
Bad thumb, though.
Bad thumb. Bad thumb is the new 63% to make the playoff. But
went down, apparently.
Yeah.
No, number one, by the way, number 1 FPI team, Ohio State, did not look so great today against Nebraska.
No, they're going to drop out of the top 100. But I would just say, look, the way Notre Dame played offensively today, some of the throws Riley Leonard made, I mean, I thought the best throw he made got wiped out by a dubious holding call against Emil Wagner. But throwing against zone, layering throws, out-breaking routes, throwing over the middle, 4th down conversions. The Riley Leonard that we're starting to see now, to me, looks like the Riley Leonard that Notre Dame thought it was getting the whole time. And post-game, he was asked basically some version of, do we underestimate how long it takes for a quarterback to understand an offensive system in college? And he's like, yeah, kind of. I don't get all this yet. But some things are becoming second nature. And it reminded me of like what we talked about with Ian Book during the week, where Book's point was like, look, I can't imagine mastering a system in a year. It's impossible. And it's what Mike Denbrock said preseason about we're not going to be a juggernaut out of the gate proved like more accurate and more spot on than I think Notre Dame would have liked. But I think that the Leonard that we're seeing now is kind of the guy that Notre Dame hoped that they were getting all along. And it's not just the run threat anymore. Like he's playing quarterback the way Notre Dame wants the position played, not the way they had to play it much of the month of September, where it was just like, hey, Leonard, can you go do something with your legs? Like it looks like full-blown offense now, and frankly, it's kind of fun to watch.
No, I was going to say, I mean, don't look now, but they've scored 30-plus points in 4 straight games. I mean, as much heat, both preseason and in-season, as we've all given this schedule, I don't care how good Navy is in a given year. And this year so far till today, they were very good. This is what you need to do against the schedule. You need to beat Navy 51-14 and basically stomp out any hope very early on. Riley Leonard throughout this 4-game stretch, I think it's 7. Let me see. Yes, 7 touchdowns and 1 interception passes. He had 1 touchdown pass in the first 4 games combined.
Right.
I think we've come a long way from questioning, well, one, whether he should be the starter, which again was not a topic that I think me and you really entertained seriously. Although I understand why.
But a comical look back topic at this point.
Well, yeah, I mean, so was Notre Dame's going to go undefeated after being A&M. But I mean, I get why. I get why people would want to call for the bench of the quarterback. He wasn't playing well. The offense wasn't looking well, and there's no easier / more popular position in college or pro sports than being the backup quarterback. It was nice, by the way, to see Steve Angeli get in with time to spare in his hometown of New Jersey. And also, I want to say Notre Dame had just 1 possession in that 4th quarter because of the Snead touchdown and then a muff punt, if I'm not mistaken. Like, hey, Navy kept the ball out of their hands in the second half the way those good Navy teams do, just not for the right reasons. But no, this offense, especially going into the second bye week, I keep having it in my head for some reason that Virginia's the next game. It's not. It's Florida State. So we can almost call it a double bye.
2 terrible teams.
Virginia, I think at least is a functional team that, like, if they throw a pass to an open player, will catch it, unlike Florida State. Especially, they have a rivalry game against Miami tonight, and I could see that one being very, very, very ugly, in their favor. But
Virginia lost 41-14.
Did they really? To Carolina?
North Carolina.
Never mind. Okay.
41-14.
Wow. Yeah, that's bad. I still take them over Florida State this year. Notre Dame should beat both of them. Who knows what USC will look like by the end of the year. They looked last night like they didn't completely just give up on their season, which I suppose is a baby step in the right direction, but it's still a game, physically speaking, Notre Dame should handle, especially at the end of the season. But I mean, this is, we can laugh at the notion of this being a storyline or even a comment, but 6-game winning streak under Marcus Freeman never happened before. Now, I'm not saying you throw a parade for these guys, but you can't run before you can walk, can't walk before you can crawl. Like,
yeah, I'm with you completely on that. And that was there was some of the questions, I think on the TV broadcast, they talked about still playing Northern Illinois clips in the facility. And like Jack Kaiser came in and like talked a little bit about, I think the pain involved with that. And he kind of never really want to get it out. But I think that's completely misses the mark about like what this team needed to accomplish. Cause like responding to adversity was fine. Like he did that. Marcus Freeman did that multiple times the last 2 years. The problem was sustaining success and handling success. And that's what I asked him afterwards. And he, kind of talked about mindset and like, you need the prep to be hard because if it's not, you're not getting any better. And like, he kind of answered it from a program, operations standpoint, and I get that, and that's legitimate. But the ability to handle success has not been a Freeman strength. Maybe it's starting to become one this season, and if that's the case, then Notre Dame will win out. I thought that Notre Dame would have to win. I thought the true check-in on handling success probably will be USC, because Notre Dame should be 10-1 going out there at this point. And at that point, people will be telling Notre Dame how good they are. I'm not sure how much of a bump and buzz they're going to get from beating Navy, but by the time USC rolls around, Notre Dame's 10-1. They're going to be they will be in the projected playoff field for sure. They probably will be hosting a game or on the cut line of hosting a game. So the questions will be much more about like, what's it going to be like to play at home in December? Like, how's that going to look? Like all the kind of questions that can like get you out over your skis a little bit from a mentality point of view. So I think Freeman deserves quite a bit of credit for the way that he's handled success over the last 6 games, because it's not like they're eking by right now. They're blowing people out.
Now they are, but in the weeks after that, they weren't.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Louisville was not a blowout. Miami, like, technically was not a blowout. Not that Miami was going to win the game, but since then they're running people.
It's the first bye.
Yeah, I think that they're playing well. They're playing good football now. They're not just winning games; they're improving as they go. And I wrote about that last week, and we talked about that last week. Like, despite all the injuries, Notre Dame feels like a team that's improving. And I think today was just like another check in that column. Notre Dame is a good team that's getting better.
So I agree with everything you said. I would take everything you said, though, and apply it more to the Army game than the USC game, just because I think, like, you can't get tripped up by USC. I don't care how bad they are. Like, that's a rivalry game. It's the last game of the year. You go out to LA, like, they're always going to get up for that game. Whether they win or lose is not going to – they're not going to overlook them.
Mm-hmm.
I could see, just based on this team's history, I see a scenario where they overlook Army, especially after they just beat Navy, who, again, not taking anything away from Notre Dame, but Navy beat themselves before they even had a chance to compete with Notre Dame today. And it's not going to be that easy against Army. I don't know how much better Army is than Navy, but I imagine they won't turn the ball over 6 times. That's the game before USC, so I think there will be a lot of look-ahead conversations. Mm-hmm. Maybe less. If Army's undefeated going into that game, which they might be, I mean, maybe it's still hyped up. But
they should be. They should be undefeated.
No, they should. But I don't know if you ever get past the point of, like, being upset proof, so to speak. And I just don't think the ingredient, like, USC just to me can never be a look ahead spot, or like that's just not a game to me, whether they're 4-8 or 12-0, that Notre Dame's ever going to overlook. And that's why I would just put everything you said and apply it to Army, because that's the one that could catch you by surprise.
Yeah, I could see that. I think that the dynamics with Army will be similar to Navy. They will still be sort of the Cinderella story. And like Navy today, they will have played almost no one. I mean, Navy will have played a harder schedule going into today than Army will have played going into Notre Dame. And eventually, I do think you take the field and you're like, holy cow, Riley Mills is huge. Like, there's going to be a shock and awe factor, I think, just about how Notre Dame is put together, that Army will have a hard time with. And similar to what Navy had today. Like, they had a really hard time. Like, Notre Dame's faster players are faster than Navy's fastest players. Same thing will be true of Army. So, yeah, it's almost like, if we're grasping at, like, what's the look ahead spot, maybe it's Virginia, because it's like a non-brand name that's in the middle of the day. I don't know. But I just, like, if Notre Dame continues on the path that they're on, they will keep handling business all the way into Los Angeles and maybe through Los Angeles. Like USC, at least they have some players, even if they're not fully functional as a program right now. They got enough to, like, make a mistake look bad. Army and Navy have to make a mistake look bad, and then they have to execute something. They can't just throw Zachariah Branch out there the way USC can. And we saw today from Navy, like, Horvath, I thought, did some good things in the run game, but he was ineffective as a passer. And really, if you look at his run game, 14 carries for 129 yards, 100 of that came on 2 runs. So Notre Dame did a very good job of, like, making Navy live with singles for pretty much the entire game. And then there were a couple home run plays, but that was it.
The controversial play in the third quarter where Kingston Villamasa sacks Horvath, they call roughing, that negates the fumble recovery by Riley Mills. I just want to harp on that a little bit, because the broadcast crew was killing them for it, and rightfully so. And as crazy as it sounds, I think by the letter of the law, that might have actually been a good call, but the law is terrible. The rule's terrible. It's McDonough was kind of beside himself, even McElroy. And it's always enlightening to me, or refreshing, I should say, when a quarterback is arguing in favor of the defense. And it's just like, what are you supposed to do there? I don't know. I think it was bad.
Yeah.
I mean, it was really bad. That said, if they did review that, I think that's a forward pass. So I don't think it takes away a turnover from Notre Dame. But I just did not get that. I mean, I get it, but I can't stand that rule. I don't know what you're supposed to do in that situation. If I'm Marcus,
it was an NFL interpretation, as if like Blake Horvath is Tom Brady and needs to be protected at all costs.
What's the other thing? It's an option quarterback. You're an active threat at all times.
You're coached to hit him over and over and over. They talked about it during the week. They literally said we need to make him pay a toll.
How do you not? If you're tackling someone, how do you disengage from that? Like, on the way down. I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. I didn't like it.
Chance I would have done it.
The other part too, for everything we just said about Navy and how bad they played, they had 0 lost fumbles coming into this game, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, they had three committed fumbles all year. None of the 3 were lost. Today, 7 fumbles, 5 were lost.
And in every fashion possible. Big hits, muff punts, quarterback just dropping it. Like
muff punt again.
A comedy of errors.
It was a sad state of affairs for the precision and efficiency of the United States Naval Academy football program, because you never, ever, ever, ever see that. Like, we were in the press box, and I think when they got to the 6th fumble, one of the Navy SIDs behind us was like, I don't even know where to, like, I can't find any evidence of Navy committing this many fumbles before, because I think when it was 4, it was the most since the 2019 game against Notre Dame. They hadn't come close to it since. So 7 fumbles, 5 lost gives you 0.0% chance of winning the game. But if Navy just played okay to good in terms of efficiency, I still think Notre Dame wins going away.
Couple notes as Notre Dame just sent these out. Marcus Freeman's 10th career victory over an AP ranked team, tying Frank Leahy for the school record for ranked wins. An Irish head coach's first 3 seasons. He'll probably have a chance to break that against Army, I would imagine. I don't think USC will be ranked when they play them. And I know Virginia and Florida State won't be. Riley Leonard, 11 rushing touchdowns on the year, tied with Brandon Wimbush for second. Tied for second. He is second behind Brandon Wimbush, who had 14. 7th straight game Leonard has scored on the ground as well. The first turnover for Navy since the season opener against Bucknell, and they had a lot of them tonight. One of those games. Also, cool. I don't think I saw this on any of the NBC broadcasts or previous home games. Cool school commercial with Eric Owens and about his background that ends with a Marcus Freeman cameo as well. Fortunately, not long after they aired that commercial, Goins comes in and misses the extra point. But it was a cool commercial, and it was cool to see Notre Dame highlight that, especially in this game against Navy as well. We're going to get to questions in a second. Before we do that, thank you to all who have subscribed on YouTube or on Apple or Spotify or wherever you get your podcast. Please continue to do that. Leave a 5-star review. Leave a nice comment. Continue to comment on these live shows. We've had some great interactions with you fans. And if you would like independent merch, please go to obviousshirts.com. Still 40% off for the Domes on Domers shirt. Clark Lee and Vanderbilt play Texas tonight. That could change. But ever since they put up 40 and beat Alabama, Domes on Domers gear is 40% off. Please go to obviousshirts.com. We've been pleased to see the sales and to see people around wearing the shirts. Quarter zips and crew necks as well. I even saw someone at kindergarten pickup wearing one as well. So he knew me. It wasn't like, oh, wait, this is odd. But appreciate the support.
Yeah, and also thanks to Roback for being a sponsor of the show. You can use the promo code Irish at roback.com to get all your hoodies, workout tees, polos, shorts, joggers, all that good stuff at roback.com. Promo code Irish for 20% off your first order. I saw some Roback gear around today. Wore it out last night when I went to DePaul Catholic to watch Notre Dame commitment Elijah Burris play. It's gear that serves multi-purposes. You can cover a football game or attend a football game. So many things you can do wearing Roback.
Did you wear it at the bachelor party last week in Atlanta? That's what I want to know. People want to know.
I don't think Roback made it down to Atlanta for the bachelor party at Lady Bird. So
no bachelor parties in Jersey because those are different.
No, I didn't encounter one. I'm sure there were many going on, but I did not see one.
I'm sure if you go to what's the real name of it? The Bada Bing from Sopranos. I think it's called Sad and Dolls. It does exist. I've never been there, but I've driven by.
Sure.
You can check that out on your way back to Newark International Airport. Let's get to questions. Actually, there's a funny comment here I want to get to. Kaiser Klein, the Chris Tyree revenge game. Forgot about that one.
Yes.
On deck.
You do have that going for you. If you're looking for a narrative in that game, I don't think Chris Tyree is probably going to move the needle a whole lot in terms of what is written or said. Today he had one carry for 4 yards and 2 catches for 11 yards. So it has not been a huge upgrade there, I think, in Charlottesville for Tyree.
That is a blast from the past. That was such an old name that I almost forgot he was still playing. 16 catches for 71 yards on the year, and he had 1 rush for 8 yards on the year entering today. So yeah, maybe it will be a revenge game. You never know. But I don't think that's going to happen. Another Jersey question from Jim Myman. Pete, did you discover any New Jersey craft IPAs that you enjoyed this trip?
I did not. I landed, drove straight up to Wayne, New Jersey to watch Elijah Burris play, and then was back at my hotel at 10:30 with a Stella, which was definitely not a New Jersey craft IPA, and that was it. So maybe if the show wraps up in time and I can get one at Newark International Airport before my flight back to O'Hare tonight, I may do so.
Granted, I'm from the other side of the river, but I did not know Jersey had their own IPAs or was known for. I mean, there's a lot there's known for there, but I've never tried a New Jersey craft IPA.
I thought he misspelled iPass for the New Jersey Turnpike in the question.
I'm in Wisconsin. I had 2 spotted cows while I watched the Yankees piss themselves in the 10th inning last night. That was fun. Paul Kindlin. Lopsided score, yes, but the offense of Navy is scary good and a nightmare to defend against. I think that's a little extreme. I would go back to the old adage of it's a root canal game. It's a pain in the you-know-what. It's usually a one-off, although with Army, it's not completely a one-off this year. But it was and you were there, it looked different, right? Seeing them go under center, take 5-step drops, and uncork a pass. It's whoa, this is Navy football. It looked different to the untrained eye. And hey, again, when they actually held on to the ball, they weren't half bad as they've been most of the season. But different weight class when you're playing a group whose best team is Memphis, and then you go up to play Notre Dame.
Yeah, and Navy, I think Navy's offense is a real pain in the butt to defend. But when you have Cross, Mills, Kaiser, Watts, I think Osbury did some Jalen Sneed, I think finished with Kaiser at 9 tackles. Kingston Viliamasa got involved. Junior Tui Halamaka, who actually started against Navy 2 years ago, and I think got benched maybe in the first quarter because he just was not processing the option. He did some good things off the edge. Notre Dame's players are all better and more talented than Navy's players. And this is how this game, maybe not 51-14, but Notre Dame should win this game going away every year if Notre Dame's staff can get its good players and more talented players to look like it. And Notre Dame staff did a very good job today of making it look like it. So look, if you're a Notre Dame fan, you would love Navy to end up in the American championship game. And they have a decent chance to do that. I mean, they've got Rice, who's not good,
Tulane,
South
right?
Florida, who's been disappointed. But, Tulane is the big one on November 16th. If they get that one, they're going to the American Conference Championship game. So for Notre Dame to potentially have a win over Army, Navy, and Texas A&M, that could be 3 conference championship game participants. Obviously, A&M tonight against LSU. By the time you listen to this podcast, that game will probably be over. But if they can get that one, and then Navy and Army are supplementary to it, it's a good place for Notre Dame's schedule to be because it doesn't have a lot to it. But that's having Army and Navy have surprise season is a good thing for Notre Dame.
Mike Elko versus Brian Kelly. I forgot about that storyline. I think someone at A&M wrote about it late in the week, and that'll be an interesting one. I think A&M's better. I think A&M will win. They're at home. You've covered Brian Kelly even longer than I have, and we both know he finds a way to just pull these ones out of his you-know-what with what this year I think has been not an extremely talented LSU team by any stretch of the imagination, but they keep falling forward. So we'll see tonight. Big one in College Station. Thad Farley, is Notre Dame the best team in the state of Indiana?
Ooh,
I don't know.
Maybe we'll find out in the first round of the playoffs, Matt.
Where?
I don't know, Bloomington or South Bend. I'm not sure. Maybe they'll play each other as a 8-9 game, but or 7-10 game.
Who's had an easier schedule? When it's all said and done, I don't know.
I mean, look, Notre Dame's played at least one real team. I don't think Indiana can.
Well, I'm saying they'll have Ohio State and Michigan.
Yeah, but I mean, come on, is Ohio State that good after today? Who knows?
Number one FPI, Pete. Respect the numbers. Men lie, women lie, numbers don't. But Michigan this year is like the equivalent of USC as far as like, all right, a secondary opponent who's not living up to the hype.
Yeah. Looked like a good win in September. That in hindsight is like, they were fine.
And the there's no I think Western Illinois, Indiana played in week 2. Like there's no one. I'm sure if you look at the schedule strength, Notre Dame's is higher.
Yeah.
But if Indiana goes 12-0 with a win over Ohio State,
that would be a win, I think, in Columbus as well.
That's in Columbus, which, the transitive property does not really work in college football, even though we use it all the time. Yeah. But Nebraska went to Indiana last week, and they went to Ohio State this week. And we saw they almost won.
It has to be at least, I think you can look at it, even if you don't take it as gospel, as I see Vanderbilt's up 7-0 early on Texas. But Notre Dame, I don't know if Notre Dame's schedule is not good. It's fine. Like, we can all say that out loud. But I think that a lot of people's schedules this year are a little bit off and wonky in the world of conference expansion, where you can get to 7-0. I'm talking to you, Pittsburgh, or you, Indiana, and just sort of not really play any. Like, between Duke and SMU, one of them is going to be 7-1. Do I think either of those teams are that good? I do not.
I think SMU is now.
That's just how the schedules have broken down for people.
Duke is, I hate to use the word fraudulent, because I don't think like people look at Duke as like, oh, the boogeyman, but like, and I think when you're a team on the rise with a young coach, like, I give you credit for winning games against bad teams more than I do like, oh, you're not that good. But I think SMU tonight goes in there and whips them. And I think SMU, ever since they made the quarterback switch, is possibly good enough to win the ACC.
Okay.
Possibly. Yeah. I mean, they host Pitt next week. We'll see.
Yeah. BYU is up 10-0 as we record this at UCF. So let's say they go to 8-0. Is Notre Dame versus BYU?
If it's at Notre Dame. If it's at BYU, I don't know. That seems like one of the trickiest field advantages.
It's, as someone who's been covering Notre Dame long enough to have covered a game at BYU with Notre Dame, I can tell you it is a weird place, cool place, weird place. But I just think like Notre Dame is re-enter. Like we said this Wednesday for sure. Like this game, if you win and play well, you re-enter the like they're good, right? Conversation nationally. I think we've seen bits and pieces of Notre Dame getting better to think that like, yeah, they're actually, they might be good. They're getting better. I think nationally, and I mean, maybe some of that is like there was national media at a Notre Dame game for the first time in a long time, whether Sports Illustrated, ESPN. So
your colleague was there, right?
Yeah. The Athletic double staffed this with our friend Ralph Russo. So I think Notre Dame did enough today in front of enough people that like Notre Dame's kind of re-entered the chat from a national point of view.
I would agree. WV Renovation, our friend from last episode, finally saw the quote, his punts are tough to catch.
Yes, twice.
Twice.
It's funny thinking back to, it was Jaden Greathouse and Jordan Faison both said that in August that like,
it's such a weird quote to think about if you don't field punts or know anything about punting. Like
it's like, why would they be hard to catch? It's a football. But the ball just comes off funny. And like, unfortunately, for much of this year, the ball has come off funny and then gone 32 yards. These were sort of the long, high hanging punts that like just freak people out because I guess that it's like this diagonal spin or something. But yeah, Navy had a real hard time with that today, among other things involving catching footballs.
Brady Brown. Thank God for no more white pants. I hope it means no more white pants. There were none today. Brady Brown again. Thanks for the great insight, fellas. Hopefully those were burnt and never to be seen from again.
Ooh, I think they were returned to Dick's.
Dan Kelly 120. Felt like a trip to the dentist, but no cavities. Taking the analogy a step.
Yeah. Notre Dame's been on its flossing. Good for them. That's dental hygiene is very important, Matt. I don't know if you're in the Sampson household, like we're militant about it. So Marcus Freeman is taking a page from my wife's book on like make sure you brush and floss every day.
There you go. Ryan Breach, what percent of ND fans at stadium say what do you guys? On TV it looked like most of them, but you can never tell. They showed them.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was announced as what was the announced crowd? I think it was like almost 74,000. I would say it was not even remotely close to that.
Really?
But
76, 112.
Majority Notre Dame is and that's pretty standard. Although, like, if there were Navy fans here and then you're losing 51-14, I don't know how loud you would be. So yeah, majority Notre Dame fans. These especially the New York games always draw heavy from the Notre Dame fan contingent.
3-hour, 12-minute game. Gotta love option football, even if it's not true option football anymore. Chris Ayers, how long is Kedron Young? Beast. He's another one that, like Jeremiah Love, when I just see him get the ball, I'm like, get the hell out of the way. Like he runs violently. And maybe it just stands out more when you're playing Navy, but we had that run down to the goal line, I think, when Angeli got in. It just looks different when he's carrying the ball.
I was talking to Ryan Harris before the game, and I was just like, so what do you think? And he was big into Kedron Young, like thought Kedron Young should like get legit carries, not just garbage time carries. And I don't know if I would go that far, but I agree with you. You look at Kedron run carry the ball, and you're like, all right, there's something good is happening there, and will happen over the next maybe 2.5, 3 seasons. So I don't, especially with a running quarterback, I don't know if there's a role for a third or fourth back. Because I like Aeneas Williams a lot too. I would rather have Riley Leonard be my second running back or my third, and then work with Love and Price in there. Certainly, Love would be number one, but I'm with Chris. Like Kedron Young, there's good things happening there. I like the direction that's headed.
Chris Ayers has a ton of questions in here about IU versus Notre Dame. I don't want to post all of them. Actually, I'll post this one. What position does IU have a better player? Quarterback, if he's healthy. I mean, nothing against Riley Leonard, but Curtis Rourke's damn good.
Rourke has been
receivers, definitely.
Yeah. I mean, Notre Dame's
offensive line has played better. I studied them to say this guy.
Yeah, and I do think it's kind of like a sidebar today as like Billy Schrouth comes in, and instead of returning to right guard where he had started the first 3 games, he goes in at left guard in place of Sam Pendleton. And it's hard to tell because it's Navy and they're undersized and you really should be able to move them around. But I think Schrouth is like Notre Dame's most gifted athletically offensive lineman. And to have him back out there, I like the idea of having him replace Pendleton maybe more than Spindler because you can at least have a little bit of experience out there with Schrouth, Coogan, and Spindler. But I don't know. There aren't too many positions at IU where I would take anything that they had over what Notre Dame had.
Probably nothing on defense, but offense I would for skill players. Patrick Walsh, an ND versus Indiana playoff matchup in Bloomington as opposed to South Bend would be a crime against humanity. Bloomington's a full college town. I mean, it's not exactly a college football hotbed, but they showed out for game day today. Who is it? David Anspaugh? I believe he directed both Hoosiers and Rudy. So if this were,
I believe you are right. Oh, maybe that's because did he direct or like do the music for them or both?
I think he directed because I talked to during COVID. I did a story on Rudy, like behind the scenes movie story. And I spoke to him for it. I'm pretty sure he directed both. That could be a future. I don't know. Do they still make sports movies? There's a run there in the mid 90s where it was really, really good. And then it just kind of stopped. Or maybe we just all grew up. I don't know. Ryan Breach. How many times have you been to MetLife Stadium, Pete? I haven't heard the best things about it. I'll interject here as a Giants fan who's seen a playoff game there and covered an Army-Navy game there. I will start with there's nothing terrible about it. But you go in that stadium and you learn that was built in 2010, and you're just like, what, why? It looks like a giant air conditioner was dropped in the middle of a swamp in New Jersey. You look at every new NFL stadium, and they're all unbelievable. Minnesota, LA, Las Vegas,
Atlanta. I was there last week.
Even Lucas Oil in Indianapolis, and MetLife is just there's nothing remarkable about it all. I don't know like who gets together, who comes up with those ideas. They built a train station that gets you there from the city quicker, which is great. But they usually don't have trains going back to the city, which is kind of the whole point. If you're going to take a train to the game, you want to take a train back. I know they screwed that up with the Super Bowl when the Seahawks won it there, and they did not have it. I made that mistake when I covered Army Navy because I stayed in the city. There was not a train back, and me and Richard Johnson from SI had to Uber together to Midtown. So they couldn't even get that right. Yeah.
You're not bitter about it at all.
It's it's terrible. And Notre Dame has 4 wins there this year than the Giants do too. While we're at it,
yeah, it's fine. Like it definitely feels like it's in the middle of nowhere. It's very gray.
Yes,
it doesn't. It feels like the football equivalent of when they built US Cellular Field in Chicago, where it was like the last. Why did we do these again? Like
that was built 30 years before, though.
Yeah, this feels like it was built in like 1995. And how old is it?
2010, I think. Okay,
yeah. It definitely it missed the boat on good modern aesthetics for stadiums. It's fine. I've been in worse. Trust me.
Soldier Field's worse, but there's a reason they're trying to get rid of
Soldier Field is worse. FedEx Field is worse. Like
another one they're trying to get rid of. Like,
yeah. But this one just feels like, I don't know. Not great.
No, but I mean that's the appropriate reaction. But then it's like, wait, this is new or newer? Like,
yeah,
why? Like, there's nothing here that's memorable. Dan Kelly 120. Love the CFP bracket from ESPN that had Indy out of the playoff after last week. We were told they had over a 60% chance to make it if they beat Georgia Tech. The pregame graphic that I screenshotted said 58% with a win today. Navy drops to 6% with a loss. I don't know if that's still true or not.
Well, I proof that the athletics numbers are better. I asked Austin Mock during the week, said Notre Dame with a win, 83% chance to make it. With a loss, 38% chance to make it, which still felt high to me. But 83, if they go 11-1, I mean, this will require some help elsewhere, but obviously they'll make it. But the hosting part of it, that it seems to be trending well right now.
I know you've got a flight to catch because you just couldn't get out of that state fast enough. So we'll just go with a couple more questions here. Well, let's just rag on MetLife. Kaiser Klein, speaking of MetLife today, Riley Leonard's thrown more TD passes there than Danny Dimes in the last 700 days. I know, don't remind me. A lot of similarity. Two Duke products. I don't even blame Danny Dimes for everything going on there. There's a lot going on. All right, come on, pile it on. I'm glad the Giants are there to take away all the misery I'm still feeling after the Yankees last night. I got to remind myself, Game 2 is tonight.
Hey, that's a full circle. Like last night, who did I see? The son of Plaxico Burress, who I chatted with very briefly. But
Plaxico, your best friend?
Yeah, former Steeler and New York Giant.
Former Twitter beefer with Pete Sampson, if I'm not mistaken.
Long time ago,
Michigan State games. Sorry, you talked to Plaxico or just his kid?
Yeah, I talked to Plaxico. I did not talk to Elijah yet. But yeah, Plaxico is still he's a huge dude. I kind of forgot how imposing physically he actually was when he played.
6'5", right? I think.
Yeah, and looks all of it. Not a round up 6'5".
This is actually interesting. Ryan Breach, what do you think the point spread will be against FSU? Turned out being a lopsided match in primetime. I can very well see there was a quote getting regurgitated this week of Mario Cristobal getting blown out by Florida State 2 years ago. And he says something to the effect of, I'm paraphrasing here, it's a rivalry game. They want to win by as many as they can. Hopefully one day this will be reversed. And it's like, don't think for a second that guy doesn't have that in the back of his mind tonight against a very vulnerable and bad Florida State team. Mm-hmm. So whatever the point spread is right now, check back and however many hours when Miami wins that game 55-0 tonight, and it'll be that much worse. I mean, Florida State is as bad as it gets. I don't know if I've ever seen anything like it where there wasn't a coaching change, where a team that was, for all intents and purposes, a playoff team literally can't win a football game the next year. I mean, the drops, if you just watch them play, it's incredible. I've never seen that. Like, just a good blue blood program overnight just completely collapse like that. And there's zero evidence that that's going to change the rest of the season.
No.
I don't still play Madden. However, Thad Farley says MetLife is the default option on Madden. Okay, that does not make me want to play Madden. Patrick Walsh, let's go Clark Lee. All right, we're getting into the rag on me, rag on Texas, rag on MetLife portion of the comment section, which is fine. But Pete does have a flight to catch. We got to get him back in South Bend in one piece. He's got a bye week to cover. I'm sure plenty of other things to do as well. But we will see you again midweek. We're nailing down a guest. We will have another live show. Date TBD this week, looking like it might be Thursday instead of Wednesday with the bye week.
Do you want to tell people why it would be Thursday instead of Wednesday?
Yeah, I lucked out and got a World Series ticket to Game 4. I will not be seeing a Yankee sweep. Hopefully, I won't be seeing a Dodger sweep, but I'll be in New York and I'll be traveling back probably on Wednesday, or maybe I'll stay for the parade. I don't know. We'll see. So yeah, it's a bye week. I can do what I want.
So the bye week comes at a good time for Matt Fortuna.
Comes at a great time for Matt Fortuna. I'll be the guy. I know I'm in left field somewhere. I'll try not to be the guy who went viral last night for. I don't bring gloves to game still, but I'll try.
That's good because you're not 12.
I'll try not to interfere with a potential home run like we saw last night.
All right, we can only hope for the best there, Matt. So, on that note, we'll wrap up this live post-game episode of The Independent following Notre Dame's 51-14 blowout of Navy. Irish move to 7-1 on the season, and as they're off next week, by the time they play next, the first college football poll will be out, and Notre Dame should be in prime position to be in the field. So until our live show midweek, he's Matt, I'm Pete. Thanks for being with us on the latest episode of The Independent.